Kate's cell was a small box carved out of black rock, barely large enough for her to lie down. A thin sleeping mat lay on the floor and a hole in the corner served as a toilet. The only light came from strips of blue energy that ran along the ceiling, giving everything a cold, underwater look. She had been in the obsidian depths for 3 days now, and she was beginning to understand how the prison worked. The guards were mostly Veltar like Warden Thrak, but there were others too. Some looked like giant insects with too many legs. Others were covered in thick fur and walked on 4 arms instead of legs. All of them carried weapons that could stun or kill with the press of a button. The prisoners were divided into different levels based on how dangerous the guards thought they were. The worst criminals lived in isolation cells like Kate's, never seeing another living being except during the daily food delivery. Others lived in larger rooms with 2 or 3 cellmates. The luckiest ones got to work in the prison factories, making things for the Veltar government to sell. Kate quickly learned that being human made her special in all the wrong ways. The guards treated her like a wild animal that might attack at any moment. They never came close to her cell without wearing full armor and carrying their strongest weapons. When they brought her food, they slid it through a slot in the door and backed away quickly. The other prisoners were curious about her too. When the guards moved her through the corridors for her weekly shower, she could see alien faces pressed against cell windows, staring at her with wide eyes. She heard them whispering to each other in languages her translator couldn't understand. On her 4th day, everything changed. Kate was lying on her sleeping mat, trying to ignore the hunger in her stomach when she heard footsteps in the hallway outside. The food delivery wasn't supposed to come for another few hours, so she sat up and listened carefully. "Hey," a voice whispered in English. "Hey, human. You awake in there?" Kate's heart jumped. Another human. She scrambled to the small window in her cell door and pressed her face against the thick glass. In the cell across the hall, she could see a man about her age with brown hair and tired eyes. He was wearing the same gray prison clothes as everyone else, but his skin was pale like hers, and she could tell he was from Earth. "My name's Jake," the man whispered, keeping his voice low so the guards wouldn't hear. "Jake Turner. I've been here for 8 months. Kate Morrison," she whispered back. "How did you end up in this place?" Jake's face twisted into a bitter smile. "Smuggling. I was running medical supplies to colonies that the Veltar had cut off from trade. They called it theft of government property." He shook his head. "What about you?" Kate told him about the fight with the traders and the trial. Jake listened without interrupting, and when she finished, he was quiet for a long time. "They did the same thing to me," he finally said. "Made it sound like I was some kind of monster just because I'm human. The thing is, most of the guards here have never seen a human before. They only know what their government tells them about us." "Which is what?" Kate asked. "That we're violent savages who can't be trusted. That we come from a death world that made us into killers. That we're too dangerous to be allowed freedom." Jake paused. "But here's the thing they don't understand. Everything that makes our world dangerous also made us tough. The low oxygen levels in this place that make other prisoners weak, we barely notice. The temperature changes that give everyone else headaches, we adapt in a few hours." Kate had noticed that too. The other prisoners she'd seen looked sick and tired all the time. Their movements were slow and many of them coughed constantly. But she felt fine, maybe even stronger than she had on her ship. "There's more," Jake continued. "Most of these alien species, they think about themselves first. If there's danger, they run or hide. If there's a problem, they wait for someone else to solve it. But humans, we work together. We fight for each other. That's something they've never seen before." Over the next few weeks, Jake taught Kate about the prison's daily routine and the different types of aliens locked up with them. He explained which guards were cruel and which ones might show mercy. He told her about the prison's weak points and the places where security cameras couldn't see. Kate learned that many of the prisoners weren't really criminals at all. There was Nira, a small alien with purple skin who had been locked up for refusing to stop her scientific research when the government told her it was too dangerous. There was Locke, a massive creature with 4 arms and gray skin, who had been imprisoned for leading a rebellion against Veltar rule on his home planet. "The thing is," Jake explained one night as they whispered through their cell windows, "most of these people have given up. They think the Veltar are too powerful, that their technology makes them impossible to beat. But I've been watching the guards for months now and I see something they don't." "What's that?" Kate asked. They're scared, Jake said. Every single one of them. They're scared of the prisoners, scared of their bosses, scared of making mistakes. Fear makes people weak. It makes them stupid. And stupid enemies can be beaten. Kate thought about this as she lay on her sleeping mat that night. Jake was right about the guards being afraid. She had seen it in the way they moved around her, always keeping their distance, always ready to run. They thought she was dangerous, but they didn't really understand what kind of dangerous she was. The next morning, during her exercise period in a small room with metal walls, Kate began to plan. The guards watched her through cameras, but she knew they were only looking for signs of violence or escape attempts. They weren't paying attention to the way she studied the room's layout or how she tested the strength of different surfaces by pretending to stretch. She started small. During mealtimes, she began leaving tiny pieces of food in specific patterns on her tray. To the guards, it looked like the random behavior of a crazy prisoner. But Jake understood the code she was creating, a simple way to pass information without speaking. Within a month, Kate had made contact with a dozen other prisoners on her cell block. She learned about their skills, their reasons for being imprisoned, and their dreams of freedom. Most importantly, she began to plant an idea in their minds. The Veltar weren't gods. Their technology wasn't magic. Their guards weren't unbeatable warriors. They were just people who had gotten comfortable being in charge, and comfortable people made mistakes. Kate had spent her whole life learning how to fight, how to lead, and how to never give up. The aliens who had thrown her into this prison thought they were punishing her, teaching her a lesson about the price of violence. They had no idea they had just given her the perfect opportunity to show them what a human could really do. 3 months into her sentence, Kate had become something the Obsidian Depths had never seen before. She wasn't just another prisoner counting days until death. She was building something. It started with small acts of kindness. When the guards weren't looking, Kate would share her food with prisoners who were too weak to eat their full rations. She helped injured aliens by showing them pressure points to stop bleeding, techniques she had learned in military training. When fights broke out between prisoners, she stepped in to stop them, not with violence but with words and calm authority. The other prisoners began to notice. Nira, the purple-skinned scientist, started asking Kate questions about human biology and psychology. Locke, the massive rebel leader, watched her with growing interest as she mediated disputes and organized the prisoners into work groups during their rare community time. "You are different from what they told us about humans," Nira said one day as they sat together in the exercise yard. The yard was just a large room with no ceiling, open to the cold vacuum of space above them. A force field kept the air in, but Kate could see the stars through the shimmering barrier. "What did they tell you?" Kate asked, though she already knew the answer. "That humans are violent, that you think only of yourselves, that you cannot be trusted because you come from a world of death and chaos." Nira's large eyes blinked slowly. "But you share your food. You stop fights instead of starting them. You ask about our families and remember our names." Kate smiled sadly. "My world is dangerous, that's true. But danger doesn't make people evil. It makes them careful. It makes them value life more because they know how easily it can be lost." Word of Kate's behavior spread through the prison. Prisoners who had never spoken to each other began working together on small projects she suggested. They started sharing information about guard schedules and security weaknesses. They began to hope. The guards noticed the changes too, but they didn't understand what they were seeing. To them, it looked like the human was making the other prisoners more aggressive, more organized. Warden Thrak called Kate to his office one day, a rare honor that usually meant someone was about to be punished severely. The office was carved out of the same black stone as the rest of the prison, but it was larger and filled with strange alien furniture. Thrak sat behind a desk that looked like it was made from a single piece of crystal, his red eyes glowing in the dim light. "The human has been busy," he said in his rumbling voice. "My guards tell me you have been talking to the other prisoners, organizing them." Kate stood straight and looked him in the eye. "I've been helping them." "There's a difference." "Is there?" Thrak leaned forward and Kate could see her reflection in his crystal face. 3 fights stopped this week. 5 work groups formed without guard supervision. Prisoners sharing food and medical knowledge. "You are changing the nature of my prison." "Maybe your prison needed changing," Kate said. She knew it was dangerous to challenge him, but she was tired of pretending to be weak. Thrak made a sound like grinding stone that might have been laughter, bold words from someone in a cage. Do you think your human leadership will help you escape? Do you think these alien criminals will follow you to freedom? Kate didn't answer, but her silence seemed to amuse the warden even more. I will tell you what I told the last fool who tried to organize a rebellion in my prison, Thrak said. The Obsidian Depths has been operating for over 300 years. It has held murderers, warlords, terrorists, and monsters from 1,000 different worlds. Not one of them has ever escaped. Not one of them has ever even tried successfully. He stood up, towering over Kate like a mountain of dark crystal. Your species may be strong on your death world, human, but here you are just another animal in my collection. Behave, or I will find more creative ways to punish your new friends. Kate was escorted back to her cell, but Thrak's threats only made her more determined. That night, she began putting the next phase of her plan into action. Using the food pattern code she had developed with Jake, Kate started sending detailed messages to prisoners throughout the facility. She asked them to study their guards' routines, to note which doors were left unlocked and when, to pay attention to the maintenance schedule for security systems. The response amazed her. Within days, she had detailed intelligence reports about every aspect of the prison's operation. She learned about shift changes, equipment malfunctions, and guard personalities. She discovered that the prison's life support systems were designed to accommodate dozens of different alien species, creating weak points that could be exploited. Most importantly, she learned about the guards themselves. Many of them were young Veltar who had taken the job because it paid well, not because they believed in the system. They were scared of the prisoners and uncomfortable with the cruelty they were expected to show. A few of them had even been overheard complaining about the treatment of political prisoners like Nira and Locke. Kate began to form a different kind of plan. Instead of trying to fight their way out, what if they could convince some of the guards to help them? What if they could show these young Veltar that humans weren't the monsters their government had described? She started with small tests. During her weekly shower, she would thank the guards politely and ask them about their day. When they brought food, she would compliment them on their efficiency and professionalism. It was a technique she had learned in officer training. Treat people with respect and they often return it. One young guard, barely out of his training period, began to respond to her kindness. His name was Sektar, and he had only been working at the prison for 2 months. Unlike the older guards, he didn't carry himself with arrogant confidence. He seemed nervous and unsure, especially around the human prisoner everyone said was so dangerous. You are not what I expected, Sektar said one day as he delivered Kate's meal. He spoke quietly, glancing around to make sure the other guards weren't listening. What did you expect? Kate asked. A monster, he admitted. They told us in training that humans were savage beasts who would kill without thinking. But you say please and thank you. You ask about my family. You seem more civilized than most of the guards I work with. Kate felt a spark of hope. Maybe your government doesn't know humans as well as they think they do. Sektar was quiet for a moment, then nodded slowly. Maybe not. Over the following weeks, Kate carefully cultivated her relationship with the young guard. She never asked him for special treatment or tried to convince him to help her escape. Instead, she just treated him like a person worthy of respect. She listened when he talked about his doubts, his fears, his hopes for the future. Through Sektar, Kate learned that many of the guards were having second thoughts about their jobs. They had signed up to protect society from dangerous criminals, but half the prisoners were political dissidents or people who had simply made the wrong enemies. The guards were starting to question whether they were the good guys in this situation. Kate shared this information with her growing network of prisoner allies. Hope began to spread through the Obsidian Depths like a virus, infecting even the most hopeless cases with the possibility that change might be coming. But Kate knew that hope alone wouldn't be enough. If they were going to escape this place, they would need more than just willing hearts. They would need a plan, weapons, and most importantly, they would need an opportunity. As she lay on her sleeping mat each night, staring up at the strips of blue light on her cell ceiling, Kate continued to plan and prepare. She was no longer just a prisoner serving time. She was a leader building an army, one conversation and one small kindness at a time. 3 months into her sentence, Kate had become something the Obsidian Depths had never seen before. She wasn't just another prisoner counting days until death. She was building something. It started with small acts of kindness. When the guards weren't looking, Kate would share her food with prisoners who were too weak to eat their full rations. She helped injured aliens by showing them pressure points to stop bleeding, techniques she had learned in military training. When fights broke out between prisoners, she stepped in to stop them, not with violence but with words and calm authority. The other prisoners began to notice. Nira, the purple-skinned scientist, started asking Kate questions about human biology and psychology. Locke, the massive rebel leader, watched her with growing interest as she mediated disputes and organized the prisoners into work groups during their rare community time. "You are different from what they told us about humans," Nira said one day as they sat together in the exercise yard. The yard was just a large room with no ceiling, open to the cold vacuum of space above them. A force field kept the air in, but Kate could see the stars through the shimmering barrier. "What did they tell you?" Kate asked, though she already knew the answer. "That humans are violent, that you think only of yourselves, that you cannot be trusted because you come from a world of death and chaos." Nira's large eyes blinked slowly. "But you share your food. You stop fights instead of starting them. You ask about our families and remember our names." Kate smiled sadly. "My world is dangerous, that's true. But danger doesn't make people evil. It makes them careful. It makes them value life more because they know how easily it can be lost." Word of Kate's BA. The opportunity Kate had been waiting for came 6 months after her arrival, in the form of a solar storm that no one saw coming. The obsidian depths orbited a red star that was usually quiet and stable. But on a Tuesday morning during the daily work shift, the star suddenly erupted with massive flares of energy. The electromagnetic pulse hit the asteroid prison like an invisible hammer, causing power fluctuations throughout the facility. Emergency lights flickered on as the main power grid struggled to compensate. Cell doors that were controlled by electronic locks began opening and closing randomly. Security cameras went offline for minutes at a time. The guards ran through the corridors in panic, trying to maintain order as their technology failed them. Kate heard the chaos building outside her cell and knew this was the moment she had been preparing for. Using the metal spoon from her breakfast tray, she had been slowly loosening a wall panel in her cell over the past months. Now she pried it open and reached inside to access the wiring she had memorized from stolen maintenance diagrams. Her cell door clicked open with a soft hiss. Kate stepped into the hallway for the first time in half a year, without guards watching her every move. Other prisoners were emerging from their cells too, confused and frightened by the sudden freedom. Many of them just stood there not knowing what to do. They had been locked up for so long that liberty felt more terrifying than safety. "Listen to me," Kate called out, her voice carrying the authority she had learned as a military officer. "We have maybe 10 minutes before the backup power comes online and the doors lock again. If you want to stay prisoners forever, go back to your cells. If you want to be free, follow me." Locke was the first to move. The massive gray-skinned rebel stepped out of his cell and nodded to Kate with respect. "I follow the human," he announced in his deep voice. "She has shown wisdom and courage. She has earned the right to lead." Nira appeared next, her purple skin pale with fear but her eyes bright with determination. "The security systems are failing," she reported. "I can hear the power generators struggling. We have a window of opportunity, but it won't last long." Jake emerged from his cell across the hall, grinning despite the danger. "I've been waiting for this moment for 8 months, he said. "What's the plan, Kate?" Kate had rehearsed this moment in her mind 1,000 times. "First, we arm ourselves. The guard station at the end of this corridor has weapons and communication equipment. Second, we free the other prisoners who want to come with us. Third, we take control of the main security office. And then?" Locke asked. "Then we change everything," Kate said. They moved quickly through the corridors, Kate leading the way with the confidence of someone who had studied every map and memorized every guard rotation. The prisoners who chose to follow her moved in small groups, using hand signals she had taught them during their limited time together. The first guard they encountered was a young Veltar who Kate didn't recognize. He was alone, trying to manually reset a security panel that had gone offline. When he saw the prisoners approaching, he reached for his weapon, but Jake was faster. The human tackled the guard and pinned him to the ground before he could raise an alarm. "Please don't hurt me," the guard begged, his crystal skin flickering with patterns of fear. We won't hurt you if you don't fight us, Kate said, crouching down beside him. What's your name? Krek, the guard whispered. I just started working here last month. I don't want any trouble. Kate studied his face, seeing the same fear and confusion she had noticed in Sektar. Krek, I'm going to ask you some questions. Answer honestly, and you'll be fine. Do you believe the prisoners in this facility deserve to be treated like animals? Krek's eyes darted between Kate and the other prisoners surrounding him. I don't know. I was told you were all dangerous criminals. Look at us, Kate said gently. Do we look like monsters to you? Krek looked around the group. He saw Nira, who had never committed a violent act in her life. He saw other prisoners who had been locked up for minor infractions or political disagreements. He saw humans who could have easily killed him but had chosen to show mercy instead. No, he said quietly. You don't look like monsters. Kate smiled and helped him to his feet. Then you have a choice to make. You can run and tell the other guards where we are, or you can help us fix what's wrong with this place. Before Krek could answer, they heard shouting from the main corridor. More guards were coming and they sounded angry and frightened. Kate's group had been discovered. This way, Nira called, pointing to a service corridor she had identified during their planning sessions. It leads to the central power station. They ran through narrow passages that were meant for maintenance robots, not people. Kate's heart pounded as she heard the guards behind them, their heavy boots echoing off the metal walls. But she also felt something else, excitement. For the first time in months, she felt truly alive. They reached the power station to find it in chaos. Automated systems were failing throughout the facility, and repair robots were working frantically to keep essential services running. Kate realized that this was bigger than just a lucky break. The solar storm had revealed just how dependent the prison was on technology, and how helpless the guards were when that technology failed. Nira, can you access the main computer from here? Kate asked. The purple-skinned scientist nodded and began working at a control panel, her fingers moving quickly over alien symbols. I can control the cell doors, the security cameras, even the communication systems, but only until they get the backup generators online. How long do we have? Jake asked. Maybe 20 minutes, Nira replied. Kate made a decision that surprised everyone, including herself. Open all the cells. Every single one. Kate, Jake said carefully. Some of these prisoners really are dangerous. There are murderers in here, people who would kill us just for fun. Maybe, Kate said, but most of them are just people who made the wrong enemies or asked the wrong questions. We can't save only the ones we like and leave the others to suffer. Locke nodded approvingly. The human thinks like a true warrior. Freedom for all, or freedom for none. Nira's hands flew over the controls, and throughout the facility, cell doors began opening with soft electronic chimes. The sounds of confusion and shouting grew louder as hundreds of prisoners emerged into corridors they hadn't seen in years. But Kate wasn't done yet. She had spent months studying the psychology of the guards, learning their fears and weaknesses. Now it was time to put that knowledge to use. Nira, can you access the intercom system? She asked. Yes, but what are you going to say? Kate took a deep breath and reached for the microphone. Her next words would determine whether this became a chaotic riot that ended in everyone's death, or the beginning of something that would change the galaxy forever. Attention all guards and staff of the Obsidian Depths. Her voice echoed throughout the facility. My name is Kate Morrison. I am a human. A species you have been taught to fear and hate. But I am not your enemy. I am offering you a choice. Kate's voice carried through every speaker in the Obsidian Depths as she continued her broadcast. For too long, this prison has been a place of fear and cruelty. Guards afraid of prisoners. Prisoners afraid of guards, everyone afraid of the system that keeps us all trapped here. But fear is a choice, and today I'm offering you a different choice. She paused, knowing that throughout the facility, hundreds of beings were listening to her words. Guards were probably trying to shut down the intercom system, but Nira's technical skills were keeping the channels open. To the guards who joined this job because you wanted to protect society, look around you. Half the people you're guarding are political prisoners who dared to ask questions your government didn't want to answer. The other half are people who made mistakes, not monsters. Ask yourself if this is the kind of protection your society really needs. In the control room of the prison, Warden Thrak was screaming orders at his technical staff. Cut the power to the intercom. Lock down all sectors. Get me a direct line to the consortium fleet. But his people were struggling with failing systems and conflicting priorities. The solar storm had damaged more than just the cell locks. Communication arrays were down, backup generators were overloaded, and half of their security cameras were showing nothing but static. To the prisoners who have given up hope, Kate continued, I want you to know that you are not forgotten. You are not alone. Every being in this facility has value, has worth, has the right to be treated with dignity. Today, we take that dignity back. Throughout the prison, something amazing was happening. Instead of the violent riot everyone expected, prisoners were organizing themselves into groups just as Kate had taught them during their secret meetings. They moved through corridors with purpose, not chaos. They freed other prisoners, shared food and water, and tended to the sick and injured. Some guards, terrified and outnumbered, barricaded themselves in secure rooms. But others, especially the younger ones who had been questioning their role, began to lay down their weapons. When they saw prisoners helping each other instead of attacking, when they witnessed acts of kindness instead of violence, they started to understand that everything they had been told about these dangerous criminals might be lies. Sektar, the young guard who had befriended Kate, found himself face to face with a group of escaped prisoners in a corridor near the medical bay. He raised his weapon out of training and instinct, but then he recognized some of the faces. These were prisoners he had spoken with, beings who had asked about his family and shown concern for his well-being. Please, one of them said, we don't want to hurt you. We just want to help the injured prisoners in the medical bay. Some of them haven't had proper treatment in months. Sektar looked at his weapon, then at the hope in their eyes, and made a decision that would change his life forever. He lowered his gun and stepped aside. The medical bay is through that door, he said quietly. The supplies are in the storage room to the left. Kate's broadcast was still echoing through the halls as she led her core group toward the main command center. They had armed themselves with weapons taken from guard stations, but Kate had given strict orders. No one was to be killed unless there was absolutely no choice. This was about liberation, not revenge. The command center was the most heavily fortified part of the prison, with thick metal doors and multiple layers of security. But the solar storm had weakened these defenses too, and Nira's technical expertise gave them the edge they needed. I can override the door locks, she reported. But once we go in there, they'll know exactly where we are. Every guard in the facility will come for us. Let them come, Locke said, his forearms flexing as he checked his weapon. We have something they don't. What's that? Jake asked. We have something worth fighting for, Kate answered. The doors to the command center slid open, revealing a room full of computer equipment and display screens. Warden Thrak stood in the center of it all, his crystal body pulsing with angry red light. Around him, a dozen guards held weapons pointed at the entrance. The human terrorist, Thrak snarled. I should have killed you the day you arrived. You should have listened to me, Kate replied calmly. All I wanted was fair treatment for everyone in this facility. Now it's too late for compromise. Thrak gestured to his guards. Kill them all. But something unexpected happened. Only half of the guards raised their weapons. The others, including Sektar, who had joined the group, turned their guns on their own commander. No more, Sektar said, his voice shaking but determined. No more cruelty. No more lies. This human has shown us what real leadership looks like. The standoff lasted for long moments, with guards pointing weapons at each other while Kate's group watched in amazement. Then Thrak made a final, desperate decision. He activated a control panel with his massive crystal hand, and warning alarms began blaring throughout the facility. If I cannot rule this prison, he roared, then no one will. I have activated the self-destruct sequence. In 10 minutes, the nuclear reactor will overload and destroy this entire asteroid. Kate felt cold fear wash over her, but she forced herself to stay calm. Around the facility, thousands of prisoners and guards were depending on her leadership. She couldn't let them down now. Nira, can you stop it? She asked. The scientist was already working at a computer terminal, her purple fingers flying over the controls. The system is locked. He used his personal command codes. I would need his biological signature to override it. Kate looked at Thrak, who was smiling with savage satisfaction. You want my biological signature, human? Come and take it. What happened next would be talked about for generations throughout the galaxy. Kate Morrison, the human who was supposed to be a savage beast, did something no one expected. She walked up to Warden Thrak, the most feared being in the prison system, and she talked to him. You're afraid? She said simply. You're afraid that if the prisoners go free, If the guards stop following orders, if people start thinking for themselves, then you'll have no power. You'd rather kill everyone than lose control. I am not afraid of anything, Thrak growled, especially not a primitive Deathworlder. Then prove it, Kate challenged. Stop the self-destruct. Face the consequences of your actions like a true leader should. For a moment, something flickered in Thrak's crystal features. Perhaps it was shame or regret or just the recognition of what he had become. But then his anger returned and he reached for the weapon at his side. He never got to draw it. Locke's massive arm came down like a hammer, knocking the warden unconscious in one blow. Enough talking, the rebel said. Nira, you have his body. Can you get his signature now? Working frantically, Nira managed to use Thrak's unconscious form to access the self-destruct controls. With only 2 minutes remaining, she shut down the sequence and saved everyone in the facility. As the alarms went silent, Kate picked up the intercom microphone one final time. This is Kate Morrison. The Obsidian Depths is now under new management. Any guard who wishes to continue working here will be treated with respect and fairness, just like the prisoners. Any guard who cannot accept this new reality is free to leave on the next transport ship. To the prisoners of this facility, you are no longer prisoners. You are free beings with the right to choose your own destiny. Some of you may wish to return to your homeworlds. Others may choose to stay and help us build something better here. All choices will be respected. She paused, thinking of the Phoenix and Captain Brown who had been forced to abandon her so many months ago. To any human ships that might be listening, this is Lieutenant Commander Kate Morrison. I am alive, I am free, and I am not alone. We have work to do. In the months that followed, the transformation of the Obsidian Depths became legendary. Under Kate's leadership, the former prison became a symbol of hope throughout the galaxy. Freed prisoners chose to stay and help build a new kind of community, one based on cooperation instead of oppression. Guards who had served the old system with honor were welcomed as equals. Those who had been cruel were given the chance to learn better ways or to leave if they preferred. Many chose to stay and learn, amazed by the changes they saw in themselves and others. The Veltar Consortium tried to retake the facility several times, but each attempt failed. Kate had done more than just free a prison. She had created the first truly integrated community in the galaxy, where dozens of species worked together as equals. When the human fleet finally arrived to negotiate Kate's return, they found her on the command deck of a converted prison ship, surrounded by beings from a dozen different worlds, all of whom called her their leader by choice, not force. You threw a Deathworlder into a dungeon, she told the Veltar ambassadors who came to negotiate, but you made a mistake. You assumed that coming from a dangerous world made us dangerous to you. What you didn't understand is that it made us dangerous to the things that threaten the people we care about. And now we care about a lot more people than when we started. The woman they had tried to break had become something they never expected. A leader who proved that humans weren't the savages they feared, but the allies they needed. The morning sun cast long shadows across the ancient alien ruins on planet Kepler 442b. Jake Morrison wiped sweat from his forehead as he carefully brushed dirt away from a strange metallic artifact. The 23-year-old archaeology student from MIT had been working on this dig for 3 weeks, and this was the most exciting discovery yet. Hey, Katie, come look at this, Jake called to his fellow student. Katie Sullivan from Stanford hurried over, her blonde hair tied back in a ponytail. She knelt beside Jake and examined the object he had uncovered. This doesn't match anything in the database, Katie said, running her scanner over the artifact. The metal composition is completely unknown. And look at these symbols. Other students gathered around them. Brandon Lee from UCLA adjusted his glasses as he took photos. Ashley Davis from Harvard started making detailed notes. Tyler Johnson from Princeton set up the 3D mapping equipment, while Megan Clark from Yale collected soil samples from around the artifact. Dr. Williams needs to see this, said Ryan Cooper from Columbia. The tall young man was already walking toward the main dig site where their supervisor was working. Lauren, White from Chicago, and Nathan Brown from Berkeley were documenting similar artifacts they had found nearby. Samantha Green from Cornell was running chemical tests on strange residues found in the ruins. Dr. Patricia Williams arrived quickly, her experienced eyes immediately recognizing the importance of the discovery. This is incredible, she said. These artifacts predate everything we know about this region of space. They're millions of years older than any known civilization. The team worked with growing excitement as they uncovered more artifacts, The ruins seemed to be some kind of ancient library or record-keeping facility. The technology was beyond anything humans had ever seen, yet it was clearly very old. We need to get these back to the ship for proper analysis, Dr. Williams decided. This could change our understanding of galactic history. As the students carefully packed their discoveries, none of them noticed the space around their research vessel beginning to shimmer. Advanced cloaking technology kept the approaching alien ships invisible to human sensors. Jake was sealing the last container when Katie grabbed his arm. "Do you hear that?" she asked. A low humming sound was growing louder. The ground beneath their feet began to vibrate. The sky above them suddenly filled with massive alien ships. The vessels were unlike anything in human databases, sleek, organic-looking craft that seemed to flow like liquid metal. The largest ship was easily 5 kilometers long. "Everyone back to the ship now," Dr. Williams shouted. But it was too late. Beams of energy erupted from the alien vessels, creating a containment field around the dig site. The humans found themselves trapped in a bubble of crackling energy. The research vessel New Horizon tried to lift off but was held in place by the alien technology. Captain Morris's voice crackled over their communicators. "We're being boarded. Multiple alien contacts. They're cutting through the hull." Strange beings materialized around the dig site. They were tall, with elongated limbs and heads that seemed too large for their bodies. Their skin had a blue-gray tint and their eyes were completely black. They moved with fluid grace, carrying weapons that hummed with energy. The leader of the aliens stepped forward. When it spoke, a translation device made its words understandable to the humans. "I am Commander Veltar of the Galactic Council Enforcement Division. You are in violation of Protected Archaeological Preservation Protocol 7 Alpha." Dr. Williams stepped in front of her students. "We were not aware of any such protocol. This planet was listed as available for archaeological research in all human databases." "Ignorance of galactic law is not an excuse," Commander Veltar replied coldly. "These ruins are protected sites. Your presence here and removal of artifacts constitutes a serious crime against galactic heritage." "We're willing to discuss this," Dr. Williams said. "Surely we can reach some understanding." Commander Veltar gestured to his troops. "The criminals will be taken into custody for trial at Judgment Station Omega-7. They will face appropriate galactic justice." "Wait," Dr. Williams protested. "These are students. They didn't know about your laws. I'm responsible for this expedition. The 10 who directly handled the artifacts are the criminals," the alien commander stated. "They will come with us." Energy restraints appeared around Jake, Katie, Brandon, Ashley, Tyler, Megan, Ryan, Lauren, Nathan, and Samantha. The students found themselves unable to move, held by alien technology they couldn't understand. "You can't do this," Dr. Williams said desperately. "These are citizens of Earth. We have rights." "You have no rights in galactic space beyond what the Council grants," Commander Veltar replied. "Your species is young and ignorant of proper galactic order. Perhaps this will teach you respect for established law." The 10 students were transported aboard the alien vessel in energy bubbles. Jake tried to speak but found his voice wouldn't work. The alien technology suppressed their ability to communicate or resist. Dr. Williams and the remaining team members watched helplessly as their students were taken away. The alien ships prepared to depart, leaving the human research vessel crippled and alone in space. "Dr. Williams," Captain Morris's voice came over the communicator. "They've damaged our engines and communication array. We can send one message to Earth, then we'll be stuck here until rescue arrives." Dr. Williams looked at the spot where her students had been taken. 10 of the brightest young minds from Earth's best universities, now prisoners of an alien government humans had never even known existed. "Send the message," she said grimly. "Tell Earth what happened here. Tell them about the students. And tell them about the artifacts we found. This isn't just about archaeology anymore." As the alien ships disappeared into hyperspace, carrying the 10 human students toward an uncertain fate, Dr. Williams began documenting everything they had discovered. The artifacts the students had found might be the key to proving humanity's right to explore the galaxy. But first, Earth needed to know that 10 of its children had been taken by aliens who claimed authority over human actions. She had a feeling that when humanity learned what had happened here, the response would be unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. The ancient ruins stood silent in the growing darkness, holding secrets that might change the balance of power among the stars. But for now, all that mattered was that somewhere in the vast darkness of space, 10 human students were being carried away from everything they had ever known. Prisoners of creatures who saw humanity as nothing more than ignorant children in need of discipline.